Today I will be installing my reverse off-road lights on a 2007 FJ Cruiser. So everyone that owns an FJ Cruiser knows that you have poor visibility when you're backing up, you have poor visibility when you're driving and you're trying to look left and right. What I'm trying to remedy right now is just my off-roading visibility while I am backing up. I have a backup camera that I've installed that I have on the roof rack up there. The problem with that is, it is a backup camera and it's not really a night vision camera. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to add off-roading lights. I have some old, I'm just reusing these. So these old lights that I have left are from my Celica before I converted the front end and engine and everything to GT4, and I have some videos on that that'll have pop up. That was a pretty cool conversion that I did on that. And then typical wiring stuff. So I've got my soldering iron, solder, heat shrink tubing, a little bit that I have left, also the little bit of solder that I have left, a lighter to melt the heat shrink tubing, and then some connectors that I have that I just pulled off of different things. And then I have the ground wire that I'll be using. This is 12 gauge copper wire, straight copper wire, not copper clad aluminum. The wiring that I've already done on this, let me go over here. So when I was digging through this, I was actually going to tap into this wire back here, and I found that somebody had installed a backup camera before and they had since removed it. Now what I did is I just tapped into the same wire that they used, and I put a fuse there instead of running a hot wire that could rub on the body and then blow the bulb, and I would rather blow a fuse than blow a bulb. So I put a little fuse holder in. That's a fuse holder that came with my front fog lights that I just did an install video on that I put up a few days ago. I ran that wire all the way up to the front to power the switch, and how I did that is I ran it down here. There's a hole that goes down from the tail light into this little compartment. You can see there's a little hole that you can see light from that goes from this spot to just under this seat. That's how it goes to the switch. So I just popped up the door threshold. So I ran the wire under there, and then it goes up to the switch from there. In this part of the video right now, I'm going to cut off these tips on the end, and I'm going to solder on my little other connectors that I have. And then they will be mounted right up here, just like that. So right now, I'm just going to do a little time lapsing of me soldering the wire. I shaved the wires off the end of this so that I could solder these two male connectors straight onto the copper wire as I split it off. So, and it's 12 gauge wire, but when it's split in half, it's still each little leg is still larger than the 18 gauge wire that's the rest of the stranded wire. Now, it is a good idea to do this in the well ventilated area because you don't want to breathe in very much solder at all. I try to not breathe in any of it just because of how dangerous it is. Fortunately, this is a very windy area. And on this, I'm not melting the solder onto the copper. I'm heating up the copper and pushing the solder onto the hot copper. So the copper ends up fusing with the solder. I mentioned copper clad aluminum, and it looks like this isn't copper clad aluminum that is already on the fog lights. It looks like it's just straight aluminum wire. You can use aluminum wire, but if you do, you have to use a heavier gauge, and you can look up the rating for that. If that's what you have, then you can use that. These are all done, and it's soldered on. I've got the ground wire connected, and my positive wire is up on the roof rack, so I'm going to have to go up and do some fancy soldering. I'm not going to video that just because I will be soldering around the roof rack, and I'm going to have to be really careful with that because I don't want to drip any solder on the paint. So as you can see, I've got the lights on. I have the ignition in the on position right now because that's the only way I can get my reverse lights to stay on with the vehicle not running. They're pretty bright in the daytime. I like the install, and this would work great with off-roading, with just lighting up the ground. I'm sure I'm going to test it out at night and do a little night video just to see how much ground coverage I get with the light. The way that I wired this, as I said, I can decide to have the off-road lights on or off only when the reverse, only when I have it in reverse and these lights are on, because I'm using this reverse light as a trigger. So I ran the wires pretty neat. You can see it on the ground, like just from here walking around, you can't see how the wires are run. I've got them tucked up pretty tightly, and then my ground wire I have running underneath. Hey, make sure you leave suggested ideas, things that you want to see. If you want to see me do videos on other lights, other lighting installs, or if you want to leave a comment down below on creative ideas that you did, maybe with running undercarriage lights, things like that. So, but yeah, please leave a comment down below. And thanks a lot for watching, guys, and God bless.